Some people might come in here yet, but we'll go ahead and start kicking things off here. Nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Nikolai Secchi. I'm an account manager here at Jamf on our strategic teams, and I'll be working as the host here, kind of kicking things off in a moment here. Welcome to Making Your Business Case for Jamf. Really quickly, I want to introduce our two speakers today, Veronica Batista Bernard. Veronica is the Director of Competitive Intelligence here at Jamf, and then Travis Ramsey. Travis is a Senior Marketing Project Manager here at Jamf. Both of them make up our Competitive Intelligence team here at Jamf. So without further ado, Veronica and Travis.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Good morning, y'all. It's nice to see you. Hopefully y'all are as excited for the JNUC party as I am today, so hope to see you all there. I'm going to pass it off to Travis to kick us off.
Awesome. Morning, everybody. Again, we want to do a presentation today around making your business case for Jamf. I know many of you at this point are facing a lot of executive leadership pressure around consolidating tools. And so we wanted to arm you with some data, templates, and strategies for making a compelling business case for keeping Jamf as your management solution. Just a little bit of our agenda today. We're going to go through some of the landscape of what we're looking at within the security and management solution. We want to go through some quantifiable business value, as well as building your business case specifically, as well as presenting to leadership. We're going to spend some time at the end with some Q&A, so ask all the hard questions. It's what we do on a day-to-day basis, so we like whenever people actually give us those. When we're looking at understanding our landscape, it's the challenges we all face. So we're seeing a lot of shakeup when a new leader joins a company and are pushing for another solution because it's what they're familiar with or what they prefer. So we hear a lot of things like, well, we already have Microsoft or Google, so why do we need Jamf? This other solution is included in our enterprise agreements that we're already paying for currently today. Our IT budgets are under scrutiny or eliminating redundant tools. So if any of that sounds familiar, these are the exact conversations we're seeing in boardrooms across every industry. Leadership sees what appears to be duplicate functionality, and they're questioning additional costs, but what they're actually tend to be missing is what the hidden costs of these cheaper solutions are.
Free.
Yeah. When leadership focuses solely on licensing costs, they miss the total cost of ownership and don't often consider the benefits of a highly specialized tool and integrated environments. A free solution that requires 3 times the IT effort isn't actually free. It's quite expensive. So when we look at productivity loss, I'm going to pull some of my notes up just because I wrote down some more specific things for everybody. When we're evaluating management tools, it's easy to focus on licensing costs and subscription fees, but those numbers don't actually tell the full story. The reality is it ends up being far more expensive once you factor in the time, the risk, and the user experience. So the specialized integrated tools, IT teams end up doing more manual work with everything from onboarding devices, troubleshooting policies. What might take a couple of minutes in Jamf could take hours in another tool. When we look at security gaps, the point solutions or generic MDMs often lack deep Apple narrative or native features or functionality or capabilities. The user experience, when we're using multiple different tools, we tend to find that the user experience becomes degraded and significantly worse so quickly. So an Apple-specific environment helps people do and use their tools at their best and make sure that their day-to-day activities and work don't get interrupted with small things or bogged down with app updates, time things. Some of the support burden, oftentimes whenever we do multiple tools, the support ends up falling on the IT team almost completely. The burden of support can become just significantly time. You have a lot more IT tickets that come up, whereas something that could have been natively done quickly with it now becomes a responsibility of your entire IT team.
And really, we're preaching to the choir, right? This is not something that's new for you all. You all are managing Jamf. And so I'm sure you're facing that same pressure where your leadership team is coming to you and telling you this is a redundant tool. And so today we really want to give you the tools to be able to go back to that leadership team and say, hey, no, actually, here are the numbers. We did all the research because that's what they want to see. So we'll continue to share a little bit more about like what business leaders care about, how you want to speak to them in that language, and give them the proof to show them, hey, actually, Microsoft is free, but these are all the reasons why it's not free from a cost and a risk perspective.
Just out of curiosity, show of hands, whatever we want to do, who works as IT for their organization?
IT admins, anybody in leadership? Great, thank you for joining us.
Director, executive level?
Excellent.
Yeah, nice, thank you.
Great. So you'll let us know if we're on the right track.
Well, there was another half of that we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Are you all facing pressure today from your leaders to explore other options? What are the other options? Is that the only one? That's the only one I heard? Okay.
Anybody else?
Kanji, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to make the case to move from Mosul to Jamf.
Mosul, great, okay. I'd love to talk to you after.
We can help.
Yeah. Great, and one other thing too is like, Travis and I, we've got one other person on our team. We lead competitive intelligence at Jamf, and we've done the research. So like if you don't want to go through having to do all that, partner with your seller, they can partner with us, and we can help you make the case. So don't be afraid to reach out, because we've done all the work, and we want to make it easy for you to do what you need to do to keep Jamf or move to Jamf.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what leadership really cares about. So the leaders in the room, tell me if I'm on the right track. So ultimately, a lot of things tend to fall into 4 different buckets between your cost reduction, your increased productivity, risk reduction, and revenue increase. Oftentimes, you need to understand what your decision maker actually cares about. It usually falls into one of these 4 buckets. Once we understand what that is, it's much easier to tailor our business case to be more specific to what they care about. Some teams tend to care only about the numbers. Some have relationships with other tools or executives, and they have a skewed perspective of how the tools actually tend to work or what your day-to-day functionality is going to look like with them. So understanding which one of those buckets they care about is going to make a massive difference to help us be more specific in helping drive you to create that business case. Some of Jamf's business value, when we look at unique differentiators, I apologize, my eyes are terrible, so I can't see small text. Will you help
That's
me?
okay. You want me to help you out here?
Yeah.
So the things to focus on, right, is what Intune, and I'm going to pick on Intune because that seems to be the popular one here, is focusing on the things that make Jamf unique, that help you be more productive and reduce risk, right? The conversation when it comes to Intune should be about risk. How many of you have actually tested Intune? Yeah. What's the worst part about it? Yeah. So if you turn that into a risk conversation and you're talking to your leaders about how if a security threat comes through, I need to be able to respond to that quickly. I need to be able to patch quickly. So understanding who you're talking to helps you build that case and your talking points, because your CISO is probably going to care about that. And getting them on board by explaining how that affects risk or exposure, that's going to help you kind of land with the C-suite. But you want to focus in, and these are the differentiators really for Jamf. When we think about some that are UEM specific, right? Intune, Workspace ONE, I don't know, some other Ivanti. Some of the things that they don't have are around like advanced scoping. That no one has that. That's unique to Jamf when it comes to smart groups and what you can do with extension attributes. Things like app lifecycle automation, that is, again, something that UEMs typically don't do well for Mac because their focus is doing what they can for the whole thing instead of focusing in and specializing on one thing. So these are all the things that you want to consider when you're talking about or testing between Jamf and Intune or other competitors. Other things to focus on are like, we're here as a partner to you, right? I don't know, I'm sure all of you have Microsoft contracts and this is why we're having this conversation, but from a support perspective, from a community perspective, like those things are important, they matter. They help you achieve what you need to achieve, and so bringing that up as part of extended support and lower costs, right? Because that's gonna lower the cost in terms of what you need to do your job when there is proper support, when there is a community around what you need to accomplish your IT goals. So these slides are going to be available as handouts, so don't worry about taking photos. You'll be able to download these slides a little bit later. But if we want to move into the next piece, Travis is going to tell you a little bit about how to phrase the security value proposition.
And then kind of on even what V was talking about, because we do work so closely with a lot of our sales teams, if you have a Jamf rep and you guys want to have a more in-depth conversation helping building some of this case, we're always happy to chat with people, get a little bit deeper with all these pieces as well. The security value proposition that we go through with everything, so the zero-day protection and the threat labs provides immediately threat intelligence. Some of the compliance automation is going to help your automated CIS benchmark enforcement. The identity integration helps with your SSO, MFA, as well as your privilege escalation. Real-time monitoring is your custom detection rules and automated response. And then the cost of a single security breach from an IBM security report we went through is roughly $4.45 million. So the single security incident tends to cost more than decades of Jamf licensing. So our security capabilities aren't just about compliance, they're about preventing business-threatening events.
And these are like some of the unique Jamf capabilities. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the new Jamf offer, Jamf for Mac, that includes security capabilities through Protect. But these are some of the unique things, right? We talk about real-time monitoring. Having that information in real time is important, especially for your SecOps team who has to do incident response. So again, when we talk about like collaborating with the rest of the organization and getting people on your side, your SecOps team is probably going to want real-time monitoring, and so focusing in on the business value that gives you, it really helps close visibility gaps, right? Because the difference here with Microsoft, and I'll call it Microsoft E5, E3, whatever it is that you have, they simply don't have the information that Jamf can pull for Mac. Right? They just don't have the inventory data, they don't have the app data, they don't have the threat data. And so the way you want to phrase it from a business value perspective is that we're closing the Apple visibility gaps that Microsoft simply just can't do because they just don't have the information that Jamf can pull for you. So you always want to frame that differentiator that Jamf has into a business value. So from a zero-day protection, right, we want to protect business data. We want to protect from zero-day threats. From an automated compliance, we want to avoid business disruption, right? Because a fine for a compliance audit failure is much more than whatever it costs for licensing for Jamf. And then zero trust is like a big key, like hot topic these days. So even discussing how zero trust is well achieved with Jamf, simply because of the real time and the more data points. So your zero trust access policies can be a lot more specific simply because Jamf has more data. And so being able to frame that extended inventory data into talking points that your CISO would care about.
So let's get into the integration and ecosystem value. While other solutions struggle with enterprise scale integrations, Jamf's API first architecture is built to handle thousands of devices with complex workflows. Our webhook systems enable real-time responses, and our scalable practice ensures that your integrations perform reliably as you grow from hundreds to tens of thousands of devices. So based on research, here's what some of the cross-platform data synchronization is good for beyond the basic description. And V, I might have you help me with those small words I can't read.
Yeah, of course. So hopefully you all were at the keynote and you saw the platform APIs. Something that your leadership team cares about is interoperability, right? Macs have always been kind of the stepchild, and so they're always thinking about it as just this thing that we have to take care of. But what you want to do is show the value of Jamf and being able to operate within your existing tech stack, right? The ability to integrate with everything that you already have to reduce the business disruption and make sure that it's a good experience for your end users. And we're going to talk about in a little bit like how you want to frame it, right? To the C-suite, some end users hold more value, right? Because they might be revenue generating. How does this affect your sales team? How does it affect your product teams? Being able to give them Macs that just work will help you generate more revenue, right? How do we tell that story to our C-suite to make that case for Jamf? But when it comes to integrations, being able to just having that interoperability throughout your entire tech stack is how we want to showcase the value of Jamf from an integrations perspective.
So ultimately, like when we're looking at making business cases as well, massive piece of it is helping them understand what your revenue generating roles need in those moments. Your sales team is device downtime is huge for lost deals. Developers, it's faster onboarding, quicker time to productivity. Executives, it's the seamless experience and better decision making. I don't know if anybody's tried to update any apps recently and things, especially when they're not at home, but in some tools it takes 24 hours. Remote workers, self-service capabilities, it reduces a lot of IT tickets, just makes sure that your teams have access to the tools you need instantly. And then just an example is if you have 100 sales reps losing 2 hours of work to device issues, it's roughly $520,000 of annual impact, assuming a 50K quota per rep. This is when you connect IT efficiency to business revenue. When your sales team can't access the CRM because the device issues is not an IT problem, that's a revenue problem.
Right, so you want to just change the narrative. A lot of executives consider IT a cost center. Let's change the conversation and make it a revenue center. Hey, how do we help our revenue teams make more money for the company? Because that's the conversation these days. And so focusing in on some of these topics to do the math in the background, right? You can do some examples, or you can partner with your sales teams internally with those sales leaders to say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about how, IT tickets or poor device issues affect your sellers? Like how are they closing their deals? Does that affect how often they can get on the phone, how quickly they can respond to customers? So just changing the conversation a little bit to say, hey, we're not here to cut costs, we're here to help you increase revenue. And this is how IT helps you benefit with that. So now that we have all of the details on what our leaders want to know about, let's talk about how we take all of that and build our case. I'll take that from you, thanks. The first step that we want to take is identify your stakeholders, right? Know who is part of the decision, like who's pushing this. Is it the CFO? Is it the CTO? Is it the CISO? Is it everybody? That way we can put together our talking points that make sense for them, right? Because we know CISO is going to care about risk. Our CEO is probably going to care about it all. And our CFO wants to know how it affects revenue and cost. So making sure that you know who's a part of the conversation will help you put together that business case. So that's going to be your step one. Step two then is going to be gathering the data. And this is what's probably going to take the most time for you. Being able to put together the comparisons when you're talking about piloting Intune. Making sure that you create a baseline for how long it takes in Jamf and how long it takes in Intune, so you can help them do the math and relate that to cost. Right, so if in Intune it's going to take you 2 times longer, you can put a number to it by saying, well, here's the average salary for your IT team, for your end users, and then translate that to cost. And we've got some tools available to you all that we're happy to share with you after the session for a calculator that helps you put together all of that information. So be sure to follow up with us if you're interested in getting that. After that, you're going to do all that math and use that calculator to calculate the impact so that when you're putting together your presentation, you have those high-level numbers that you can share with leadership. Right? One other conversation when it comes to Intune, I just want to jump right in, is around the cost. Right? Intune is free, not quite. They actually charge for additional features. If you weren't familiar, Intune now has 3 levels. Right? If you wanted to get close to parity with Jamf and the tools that you have, that'd be an additional $10 per user per year, which is quite the cost. So if we want to talk about cost cutting, that's another way you can kind of do the math and showcase, actually it's going to cost a lot more money over time because we're having to pay for these additional features, even though it seems to be free with our E3 or E5. Lots of different ways. Our team has done all the research, so we can absolutely help you strategize. But once you've got all your math together, I think the next kind of important thing, and I've alluded to it, is building your champion network internally, right? Part of this is going to be you building your brand internally too, right? Because you all want to get promoted, I want to get promoted, and part of that is building that brand internally to get champions on your side. So when you're not in rooms where decisions are being made about cost-cutting measures, they can, come to your, they can tell your story when you're not in that room. So making sure that you build those relationships internally. Plus, if you want to gather all that data, you're going to have to talk to those sales leaders, those marketing leaders, those product leaders. So just building relationships to help build your brand internally helps as well. And then, of course, once you have all that, you're able to present that case with that business language. So step one is, who are those decision makers, right? We talked about the people that have that final say. You want to know exactly who they are. The next thing is the influencer, right? And these are typically people at the director level who have influence but don't necessarily have the final say. You want to get those folks on board too. And so knowing that audience will be important, because the IT director, they're going to want to know some detail about technical capability, but mostly they're going to want to know how that translates to business value. So it's going to be like a nice mix of the two when you're presenting that to those folks, but you're going to want to find those influencers to help you tell that story. And then, of course, those end users. We want to focus on those revenue-generating end users so that when you're making that business case, you really showcase how IT is not a cost center. We enable growth, business growth. So when it comes to quantifying your state, I'm sure everyone's familiar with some of the things that you're going to want to test when you're comparing to Intune, Workspace ONE, Conji. These are just some examples. The calculator that I mentioned earlier is way more comprehensive, but these are just some thoughts on things that you're going to want to take a look at when you're comparing, right? How much time are you spending on device management? How much time is it taking you to resolve issues? And how many help desk tickets do you get? This is a common theme, right? We've heard it from IBM. We've heard it from Cisco on the JNUC stage. This is all kind of similar to what they've experienced. From a security perspective, we always want to talk about compliance, right? I want to automate compliance, and Jamf is able to help you do that. Intune has no automation capabilities when it comes to compliance benchmarks. That's just not something they offer for macOS. So leaning into that to say, hey, security team, we don't have to worry about compliance because it's automated. Those are the things that they're going to want to hear about, and showcasing that to those folks, that audience is what you want to do. And then from an end user perspective, throw out a survey. Hey, end users, how's your experience with your Mac? Give us some satisfaction scores that we can put up on the screen for our C-suite to say, hey, actually with Jamf, this is what it's like. This is how our end users are feeling. This is how our revenue-generating end users are feeling. And even if you lose the case and you got to move to Intune, when it's time to boomerang, you've got a baseline of how users actually felt, so you can continue pushing that survey once a year. Just get a pulse check every now and then to see how end users are feeling, because then you'll have that data when it comes to your CFO saying we've got to cut costs. The other one I think is very important is around the hidden cost of migration, right? People think it's real easy to just hop, skip, and move all your things from Jamf to Intune, although Apple announced some new capabilities that will make that a lot easier. There's still a lot you have to think about, right? Like what is the actual amount of time it's going to take for me to migrate a Mac from one MDM to another and have it be fully functional for my end users, right? Because I need them to get back to work and keep selling, so I want to interrupt I don't want to interrupt the business at all. So thinking about how much time it's actually going to take to migrate, pulling those numbers together through your pilot. Implementation, right? Just because you have Intune admins that are managing Windows does not mean that's going to translate to managing Macs in Intune, right? That experience is going to be completely different. And so they're going to have to take the time to build it. They're going to have to take the time to learn it. Those are all costs that we can put together to make that case. The other one here is like anticipated support. And hopefully every migration goes perfect, but not every migration will. And so if we assume a 1% failure rate and it's going to take an hour for me to get through that, those are costs that we have to consider. Instead of just keeping Jamf and keeping what's working, putting that in front of that team. And then, of course, the last one is where a lot of the work comes in for you to test those differences, are what those missing feature labor requirements are, right? Especially from an app patching perspective for Intune, right? You got to use a third-party tool. So now we're talking about an open source tool that we have to keep up with to be able to automate some of these capabilities that we had with Jamf. Just putting a dollar number to the amount of time is really what they want to see. So if you can make that case to say, hey, it's actually cheaper to just stay on Jamf. But these are some of the topics that you want to consider doing some research on from a migration perspective. And then here's our building our brand internally, right? These are some of the folks that we're going to want to talk to as we make our case, our campaign internally to keep Jamf. Our end users, number one, we want to focus on those revenue-generating end users, make sure that we get those satisfaction scores. Our security team, right, they're going to be the ones that we collaborate with. Hopefully you're already collaborating with your security teams, but getting them to understand why Jamf automates things, how it closes visibility gaps. So you're kind of just I don't want to say controlling the narrative, but you're controlling the narrative when it comes to how they think about Jamf and the automation capabilities that are offered. These two at the bottom are interesting. We don't really kind of think about them until it's time to pay for something or onboard an employee, but they have a vested stake in the technology experience too, right? From a finance perspective, we can talk about all the numbers and how much more money you would have to spend over time to migrate to an Intune. But HR, they care about the employee experience. So when we talk about that survey and end user satisfaction, how was your onboarding like? How quickly were you able to get to work? Those are things they're gonna care about. So building mindshare internally, this is gonna be that champion network. And so we can talk about some of the key messages that you'll wanna kind of discuss when you're making your rounds for your campaign, right? You wanna make sure that your devices are working seamlessly. Is that important to you? Faster app installation, better security, all of the talking points that we've talked about so far. And then as you go through building your case, you're finding all of that supporting data through the surveys, through conversations with department leaders, et cetera. The next one here is gonna be with your, I went too fast. With your security team, and we already talked about some of these, right? The real-time threat detection, automated compliance, unified visibility. If you stick to those talking points, you'll get the security team on board, right? And you want to showcase some of the like Threat Labs intelligence. That's another topic is, sure, Microsoft Defender offers a little bit for Mac OS, but they're not necessarily specialized in Apple. So from an Apple threat perspective, here are some examples of how Jamf does that already today, right? You're just making your rounds to get them on board with why Jamf makes more sense than trying to move to another solution. Next are gonna be those revenue generating department leaders, right? A device that doesn't work is probably gonna impact your close rates, and I know you have a quota to hit, so let's talk about how we can make this seamless for your end users. Developers, hey, I know we got a lot of work to do from a product perspective. I wanna make sure that your devices are always running so that you can release those features as quickly as possible. Even customer success, right? Folks that take care of current customers. I need to make sure that those devices are working so that I can do those QBRs with customers, showcase those new capabilities. And even marketing, right? What they care about is content. I need to be able to deliver content on a deadline. But if those devices are down, then you're probably not gonna hit that deadline. How can I help you and collaborate with you so that you're winning where you need to win? And then we talked a little bit about finance, right? These are just some examples around how Jamf can reduce that IT operational costs. We're talking about the hidden costs that come with missing feature requirements. Focus on revenue generating products, right? Numbers is really what this person's gonna care about. And then the HR folks, we talked a little bit about that employee onboarding, employee satisfaction. Those are the key talking points for those folks. Cool? So we got all the data. Now let's talk about when we actually present to our leaders. They don't care about technical features, so a feature comparison chart is not gonna speak to them. We wanna talk to them in cost reduction, revenue increase, risk reduction, and the last one, I always blank, productivity increase. Those are really the 4 value categories that the chiefs all care about. They want to improve business outcomes. And so don't lead with the technical details, talk about it from a business value perspective, business impact. Right? Think about what the main priorities are for your organization this year and next year, and try to weave that into your business case to say, hey, I know we're working on this new product launch. I want to make sure that there's the least amount of business interruption, and I think migrating to another MDM right now is probably not the best thing. So just try to work with your leadership team to stay in the know on what's going on with the organization, so you can weave that into your case as well. Right, we talked about those numbers. They want to see the numbers. So we've got that math calculator for you to be able to do that. And always tie it back to how Jamf helps with that business outcome, with those numbers. And then, of course, the risk of switching, right? We talked about all those things from a migration cost perspective. So we talked about the 4 categories, right? Cost reduction, risk reduction, increased productivity, and revenue increase. I think we've talked about these ad nauseum, but I'm just gonna visually show you these are the categories that each of these chiefs are gonna care about. CEO's probably gonna care about it all, so cover it all for that person. The CISO, squarely focused on risk, so make sure we're talking about those visibility gaps, automated compliance, things we've already talked about. Oh, this is CTO, I'm sorry, I see the next slide here. So CTO also care about risk, but they're the ones being pressured to reduce costs. So we want to focus in on how Jamf will help you reduce costs because of the operational efficiency. And then from a productivity perspective, this is probably what they care about most, right? They want to make sure that their IT teams are efficient, because in the end, it's on them. If you move to Intune and the experience is not good, it's this person that's going to be, talked to on like why is that not improving? So these folks are going to care about that. CISO, squarely around risk, and then our CFO is going to care about those numbers, so cost and revenue increase. Great. So now we've got an action plan, right? You want to go into the session catalog. As I understand it, it's not working right now in the app, but if you go on the website and look at the session catalog, you should be able to download some of the handouts, and I'll show you what those look like here in a second. You're going to want to take quite some time to gather your baseline data. Lots of data points that you can gather when it comes to a comparison perspective, but also just general like average salary numbers, how many employees you're probably going to find next year, how many people are going to leave the company, so you can really do the math and put a number to what that experience will look like as long as you have all that baseline data. Find those champions, right? Become best friends with those department leaders, because they're the ones that are going to help you tell that story internally. And then schedule the meeting. Obviously, this group, their calendars are full, so try to think about it from a 2 to 3 month in advance perspective. Don't wait for it to come to you. Be proactive and just get all the work done now, so that when the time comes for your CFO to tell you, it's time to cut Jamf, you can actually immediately say, actually, I have all this data that says why we shouldn't. So just be proactive, because you know it's coming. It's going to come. Folks are going to tell you, hey, we have Microsoft, let's just move to Intune. And so getting proactive with the work will help. And then present that with some framework. So here are the session handouts that are available. The keynote slides are there, so no worries about needing to take some photos here. You can get them in PDF format. We've created an end user example satisfaction survey, so you can copy and paste. There's a version for SurveyMonkey, there's a version for Microsoft Forms, depending on what you use. You can easily just upload it. There's also an operational assessment, so we talked about like getting all the details to gather your baseline framework. And then we also have a set of questions for those department leaders. So when you're able to chat with the sales leaders, we've got just a set of questions on like what impact IT makes on their teams. Just some sample things that you can help get you started in having those conversations and building those relationships. And then we've got just a one-pager on like what the slide structure could look like when you create that keynote for your C-suite. But that's what we got. Hopefully you found that useful. We've got quite some time for Q&A, so Nick is going to help us out with some questions if you all want to get into it and have specific questions. Yeah.
The company I work with, they're a wealth management for a family, so we don't really have a product. Our product is making sure the family has all of their money still. And we only have about like 65, 70 Macs, so building a cost I don't think is the correct way to come at it, because they're not really concerned with cost, more use. So what's the best approach? That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you're using Macs, right? And
It's all only 65 Macs. Everything else
is Windows.
Windows.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you already know that they don't care about costs. So when you look at the 4 categories, you want to talk to them and understand what they value, right? Is it you want us to be more efficient? Are you worried about revenue? Is it risk? Is there?
It's a lot of risk, because all of our Macs they're all admins. Everyone who has a Mac, they're all admins. So I'm not like managing, finding who fits all VIPs and family members. So that is my current issue, because the only thing I need to be able to do is wipe it and find it. So I don't have to have the automatic enrollment and things like that, because it's all personal devices. I just need to be able to wipe it and find it, and then some light, oh, they forgot their password. Yeah, I can reset your password with Jamf.
Yeah, I think even the wipe command is still subject to the framework speed. So you can frame it as a risk conversation, right? I need to wipe this machine right now, but Intune says it's going to take 8 to 24 hours, so let's wait and see. So just finding the right talk track, and it sounds like we're kind of working through it right now. But yeah, just figuring out what they care about and then framing it around that. But it sounds like risk, even a simple wipe command is still subject to framework speed. So let's try to frame it that way to show how that eliminates the risk. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I don't know this. This is less of a question and more of just kind of explaining our current scenario.
Yeah.
So we are an organization of probably 70,000 computers.
No pressure.
1,000 of which are Jamf, and I think we've done a good job at demonstrating what was presented here. However, that conversation only lasted us so long. So the challenge we're running into is that feels like it's kicking the can down the road. And the feedback we've gotten is, okay, why is Intune okay for 70,000 Windows computers, but it's not okay for 1,000 Macs? And as we demonstrate the benefits of Jamf, it's become, okay, why do the Mac guys get the Ferrari and the Windows guys are making it work with a Honda Civic? And honestly, that's as painful as it says. It's hard to come up with an argument as to like why we deserve something better than the other 70,000 computers. And the conversation has shifted, at least from my perspective, from Jamf is better than Intune, and it's started to become Intune for Mac isn't even as good as Intune for Windows. Like it feels like there's not feature parity there. But again, as we're demonstrating that, Microsoft is taking that back and they keep adding features within Intune, and it just feels like we're kicking the can down the road until Intune offers feature parity with Intune. Because we're finding that there are certain compliance things that Intune doesn't even support for Mac that it does for Windows, but it's hard to have the conversation of, okay, Intune 8 to 24 hours to push X, whatever you're pushing, but the Windows guys are making it work, so why can't you? I think our leadership knows Jamf is better than Intune, but it's one of those things where it's like, 99% of our organization is making this tool work. Why can't you make it work? And that's kind of where we're hitting a lot of roadblocks. So, like I said, it's less of a question and more of just like, this is what we're facing.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel your pain because like our sellers feel it too. It's the conversation that's happening right now. There's probably a lot of different things that we can talk about. And for those of you that are interested in one-to-one time, I do have a brain date calendar open. It says, ask me anything about competition. So if you want to schedule time, feel free to do that. But here, this conversation is tough. I think one way you can frame it is like, well, like, it's not my fault that Intune sucks for Windows. But what's the cost of all of the Mac computers that you have, right? Mac in its own is a premium product. But the amount of money that you're spending managing Macs is a fraction of what you have for your Windows devices. So like why try to compare the two when if I'm using Jamf to manage my Macs, that's what's keeping it at a fraction. So we're still coming back to a cost reduction conversation where it's like, bro, like if you want me to use Intune, that cost is gonna increase. So like that is why. And to your leadership team, like they need to pressure Microsoft then to make some of those Windows capabilities work better. But yeah, you can't manage a Mac like you would a Windows machine, and that's what Intune tries to do. Yeah, hopefully that helps out. Yeah, any other questions? Hey.
Yeah, so we have our Jamf environment. We've been on premise with ours since Casper Suite, and so now it seems like Jamf is kind of forcing everybody to move to the cloud by taking away features from on-prem or only making those features available for cloud. Like it used to be DDM worked on-prem, then they took it away, and so now it's like, okay, well if you want DDM, you got to move to the cloud. So then we're kind of facing like, okay, well, if we have to move to the cloud, you know what I mean?
Then we got to explore other options, yeah.
Right, so I don't know, it's more just like a statement that's,
I know.
I feel like in some cases, Jamf's being their own worst enemy by saying like, okay, we're gonna take away this features, and the reason that we stay on-prem is that way we have full control over our own environment, and we can develop, and we've got a lot of integrations to local stuff on campus as well, and then our security team has full access to all that information. But
Yeah.
so I don't know, that's just something.
I know, I appreciate your comment, and I know a lot of on-prem customers feel the same way. The best I could say is I'm gonna take that feedback back to our leadership team. We try to keep our C-suite abreast of like what's happening in the market, and so I can only say something so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel your pain, and you got to do your due diligence, right? I'm not going to sit up here and say that Jamf is the right solution for everybody. So if this is the opportunity for you to see what else is out there, then take it, and at least it'll help you validate whether or not Jamf is the right solution for you. I think we have 4 more minutes for some other questions. Yeah.
I'm talking from a customer's perspective, not within our organization internally. Within our organization is Jamf. So one of the biggest challenges, in our conversation with our customers is, we do have a battle card, Jamf versus Intune. We talk about that we have created a defined business case on why you should go with Jamf versus Intune. And most of the customers, they already know that Jamf is far superior to Intune in terms of feature-wise. It's really rich, and basically all of this which you have shown, why you should go for Jamf versus Intune, and you'll be able to cut down on the IT operational costs, all of that. But still, if they have this, most of the customers, if they have this Microsoft E3 file license, Intune comes as part of that. So they think that it comes for free. And we also talk about that, it's not free. There are a lot of hidden costs to it. And, to get the Jamf equivalent features, then you have to pay extra, you have to upgrade to the Intune suite, plan 1, plan 2. But then, again, there's this question. So if I have the E3 file license, I get the basic features, that's enough for them, and they don't want to pay extra for that if they have to move to Jamf. So this is one of the biggest challenges we are still facing with, most of our customers.
Yeah, that's also a tough conversation. One thing I'll say is Jamf and Microsoft do have a partnership. There's a number of integrations that help get the most out of the Microsoft licensing. So we can always position it that way too. It's like, sure, you have access to Power BI, but if you don't have all the data on your Mac, then are you really getting the most out of Power BI? So just changing the conversation a little bit to showcase how Jamf actually extends the Microsoft investment that you've made can help with that. The other thing I'll say is we also have a co-sell partnership with Microsoft. So for clients who have Azure committed spend, where they've committed to Microsoft that they're going to spend a certain amount of money on Azure, they can actually use that to buy Jamf. So in the cases where you're a customer of Microsoft that has committed spend, then we can flip the conversation and say, hey, well, now Jamf is free because you're using funds that you've already committed to Microsoft. That's one way you can go about it too. But sometimes it has to be an I told you so conversation. Like, you want to move to Intune? Let's do it. And then having that baseline so you can compare. We've had many customers go to Intune and come back, go to Mosul and come back, go to Kanji and come back. And so if sometimes that has to be the I told you so conversation, then it's tough. It's very hard. But yeah, if you want to strategize a little bit more, we can. You just got to keep telling the story of the cost reduction, revenue increase. You always want to bring it back to those topics what they care about.
And I have one more question.
Yeah.
So that's from a security perspective regarding Jamf Protect and JetB and all those Jamf products for security. So I understand, compared to Jamf Pro, Jamf Protect, CTNA, JetB, and all of that provides cross-platform support, for your Windows and Android as well. So can we make a business case there in which, you can actually say that, you can buy Jamf security features versus a Microsoft Defender?
I wouldn't. I personally think Microsoft Defender is still probably the best solution for Windows. But you can try. I think it depends on the case. So just like if it's a ZTNA conversation, maybe, yeah, because Microsoft just released those capabilities for iOS, but it's nuanced. I don't think there's like a direct answer for me to give you there. You can, but we want to do what's right for the customer, and I think testing is really the way to do it.
Okay.
I think I saw one other hand. We got 14 seconds. But like I said, we're going to be at the Jamf Love booth upstairs. Let's do it. Last 10 seconds.
So, other than the cost conversation that I'm having with my leadership, I'm having a lot of conversations, especially as we are going for a CMMC with, for our government contracts and stuff, about whether our security team kind of wants to put all of our management in a single pane of glass. I know I've heard that that phrase come up a couple of times here at the conference so far. And, so whenever I'm like, hey, we should move from Mosel to Jamf, Jamf's got all these extra features, but if we're going to move, the first thing they always push back with is, well, why don't we explore something like Ninja One, where we could manage the handful of Windows machines and the Macs on one thing, and just have that visibility cross-platform, because they're really trying to eliminate tools.
I would always push back with what single pane are you looking for? Because from a management perspective, that's on IT. You want a security single pane of glass, and that comes through with your SIM. So why would I need to manage everything in a single place when all the data is just going to the SIM? That's what you care about, security team. So I would maybe change the conversation a little bit to say, well, what exactly are you looking for from a single pane? Because I'm the one managing the devices. You care about the data, right? Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, and I think they're just trying to look at the number of SaaS applications that we're using.
Sure, consolidation.
If we can consolidate that down even further, that's a win for them, and a win for my team as well. So.
Yeah. Again, nuanced conversation. I think I would try to focus in on the data aspect of it and say, well, we want to use the tools that are going to increase revenue, cut costs, reduce risk. I would turn it into a risk conversation. To say something like Ninja One is not going to have the same coverage that Jamf does. So from an automated compliance perspective, from a visibility perspective, those are things that are going to suffer, all simply because we want to consolidate on the number of apps. You tell me what risk you're willing to take, which,
Yeah, and I know they'll be excited about the automated compliance features. The thing is then they're going to push back on, hey, this costs almost triple what we're paying for Mosel.
But also, what is your budget, security team? You probably have millions of dollars compared to the, $10,000, $100,000 that I'm asking for from a Jamf perspective. So it's, but again, building your relationships with those folks, so you can have real water cooler conversations with them and have real talk about what actually matters, probably will help you in that case. But from a cost perspective, when I hear that from security teams, I'm like, bro, you got so much money to spend. Why are you worried about what we've got over here? That's a fraction of what we're talking about for the rest of the stuff. But I would focus in on the risk exposure. So if you're risk averse, what risk are you willing to take? Do you want the machine to be secure, or do you want us to have less applications?
Great.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Thanks, guys. We'll be at the Jamf Lab booth. Schedule some one-to-ones. We'll be there. Thank you for joining. If you go to the session catalog on the website, so I think it's the JNUC website, there are handouts right on this session that you can click download for.